Anyways, hi Pam.
Hello.
Guys, it's Pam. We've got a Pam.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. I was in a car about 5 minutes ago, it seems like.
Ooh. You know what Pam is? Super flexible. Deal with anything. Pam, the main comment in the chat is that you should tweet about this. But
your stuff back.
That's cool. Do you need the, I'm going to give you the link.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Bebop7 says, hello, Pam.
Hello.
Let me give you that. Oh, we have a chat, I think, just for us. There we go. That's the link to the page, and I think you can see the chat there. I think if you pop up in the chat, I can make you a moderator.
Oh my god, I haven't done one of these in so long.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody, for the slow start. Pam was trapped.
Sorry, one of my friends just bought a house, and I drove her to IKEA in a rented car. Had to return the car. It was nuts.
It's like a complete nightmare scenario.
Yeah. Despite all the rain here, people still don't know how to drive in rain. So yeah.
That sounds terrible. It's like below zero and snowing here.
It's pretty nice. Like I was sweaty in a leather jacket.
So jealous. We've got that lousy Smarch weather.
Ugh.
All right. Well, hello everybody. Thank you all for hanging out while we get this figured out. And yeah, so Pam, I think I've got your store up and my store up. Would you guys like it if we gave you just a quick overview of like what we do with our stores first? Sure. I just walked through like some of my products because I was just waiting for you, but
I don't see the main chat, so I can't see what anyone's saying.
On the page?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I see our chat. That's it. Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh, it's not going to be in the Hangout window. It's on the link I sent you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I haven't done one of these in a million years.
It's okay. I spent a lot of today being like, what does this button do? And possibly some people who follow my YouTube are like, what the heck, Rachel? All right, well, I'm gonna pull up full screen.
Cool.
And if you've got the chat up and you can keep an eye on questions, then I will pull up our stores and we can walk around them a little bit and share what we have there and then get into how we make all that stuff.
Cool. I got an eye on the chat.
All right. So I'm going to lock it on my screen, probably. Pam, can you say something?
Can I say something?
Perfect. Just checking to see if it moves. All right, I'm going to share my screen somehow. Hey, Scott Benson.
Hey, Scott.
How are you doing? One of these will let me screen share. Yep, perfect. All right. All right, so I'm screen sharing. Oh, this is Pam's store. Pam, is this your main store?
Yeah. Right now I'm just selling through Etsy.
Cool.
Most part, yeah.
All right. So we've got sort of the 4 highlight objects, and you get to pick what those are. They don't have to be like the top in the list.
Yeah, I get to pick that. You get to pick what those are, and I don't know. I've been on Etsy for so long. There was a time where like you could only pick 4 or 3 or something like that. But if one sold out, you would just have a blank spot.
Huh.
They don't have that anymore. Like you can actually like queue it up, which is very nice.
Nice. All right, and then we get into the bulk of your store, and I'm going to just load everything you've got, which is lots of stuff. So your categories are prints, original paintings, metalwork, zines, fabric and fiber, and pins. You have a ton of stuff here.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about these categories and like maybe like just like when it comes to prints, what are some print things that come to mind?
So I used to have a few more screen prints and stuff like that, but for the most part they're all digital, like G-clay prints. I have a printer, a large format G-clay printer that I got literally like right graduating out of school, because that's when Etsy was getting big, and I was like, I'm going to be an Etsy superstar.
Nice.
And that's not how that works, turns out. But I've been carrying around this giant printer with me, and it's come in a lot of handy, especially with doing these kind of shows and stuff, and having a shop online and being able to print on demand, which is actually not how I use it, because it's kind of a pain in the ass to print on demand.
Yeah.
And I have such a small apartment that like it doesn't fit anywhere.
Oh.
Yeah, if I like take out the printer, I am printing a whole bunch of stuff all at once.
Gotcha. So for something like the snake archival art print, so do you know what can you want to talk about like the brand of printer you have or like?
Yeah, I have a Epson 3880. It has, God, I think I can do 17 inches across at max. And technically you can load a whole, like a giant ream, like a big roll of paper onto it, which is not something I've ever done. I've not used it that much in order to really get that kind of use out of it. But yeah, it's bigger than what I needed. They have smaller versions of it, which would have been totally fine, but I was dumb and young. But it has come in handy a lot. Like I actually print my Ouija boards on it because it's so big.
What?
Which is probably tearing up the printer head really bad, but I don't know.
That's amazing.
Like you can change the thickness variance, and there's like multiple ways to load paper into it. So that chipboard is like super thick, like
Yeah.
difficult to cut thick. And so yeah, it's pretty fun. I really enjoy having it. I've been able to do a lot of weird stuff on it.
So these guys says 12.5 inches wide.
Yeah, and it's
So
it's 12.5 inches wide because that's the mailers I had.
that seems fair.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the sizing and things I have are based on just the extras I've had around, or like, yeah. Or when I was doing a lot more prints, I was doing larger prints that wound up not selling very much. I wound up having like a ton of mailers that were like 13 by 19.
Yep.
And so this works for kind of getting rid of those.
That's awesome.
I would have loved to screen print those, but I don't have room in my apartment.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah.
I mean, having seen them in person, they are very, very nice, and the inkjet printer does a great job with them. They look really, really good. So do you print your zines at home then as well?
I do, and I print all of those on a laser printer.
Oh, okay.
I've gone through a couple of them. I had first started doing it on a Brother printer. That was like a small at-home laser printer, and just like immediately ran it into the ground.
Yeah.
Got another one, immediately ran that into the ground, and so now I have like an HP LaserJet Pro, which is, my cat's going insane. Okay. Yeah, HP has done pretty well to try and, because even printing at home, it's really expensive to print anything.
Yeah.
And if you want to print like 50 at a time or something like that, like toner goes really quick, especially using a lot of color. So over the years, I've done off-brand toners.
How does that work out for you? Like, have you found a good one?
Kind of. I don't know. I thought I did, and just recently it's like, oh no, everything's going to print freakishly blue.
Huh.
For no reason. And so like it's a lot of learning your printer and learning how to really mess with it, and being okay with things not being the exact color you want them.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I've designed a lot of stuff with that in mind, that I know it's going to like lean certain ways, and just kind of got to roll with it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So you've got inkjet archival art prints and Ouija boards. You've got laser zines, which sounds super awesome. And then you have screen printed fabric
Yeah.
and hand etched copper pins. Do you want to talk a little bit about just quickly like what the process is? Like, do you do the screen printing in your own house for the beetle bone casting?
I do. There's a place nearby that lets me expose screens and things like that, but it's really a pain in the butt to get into. Uh, and they only let you kind of do it in like 4-hour chunks, and you're not alone. Like you're basically battling other people to expose and for the sync and stuff like that. So it's kind of not the great, and it's volunteer run, so there's not always someone there, even on like the 3 days a week that they're supposed to be open.
Ah,
So it's like hard to get into. It's also I'm taking the bus to get to it, so it's not always like the most convenient thing in the world.
yeah.
But I can get like a couple runs out of a screen, especially. So I'm using metallic inks, which really, really like, I don't know, it seems to like chew through my stuff and just get really into all of my screens. And honestly, the screen that I'm using for my fabric stuff is a finer screen than a finer mesh than I could be using. But so yeah, it really clogs up the screen and starts wearing at the.
So are you able to rinse the ink out of your screens at home, or do you have to take it back to the screen shooting place to do that?
Oh no, thankfully, so I thankfully have a bathtub,
Yeah.
and every place I've ever been to have moved with one of those like shower nozzles
Yeah.
because it's just, I don't know, having one of those is really nice to be able to like clean out your garbage can and do this and stuff like that. So yeah, clean everything in the bathtub.
Nice.
So yeah, try and do all of my screen printing all in like one weekend
Yep.
every once in a while. And it seems to be like, I don't know, 3 to 4 times a year where and I make it en masse. I try and make as many as I can as long as my body's kind of willing.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it very often, it's just like, oh, that is a back workout.
It's an intense thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially you're working those the scarves that are the beetle bone casting mats. Those are pretty big. They look like they must be like 18 by 18 inches or something.
I think they're 21 by 21.
Oh yeah, here we are.
And here's another like problem is the screen I was using is like a screen I bought for other things, and so the image is like way too close to the edges.
Oh boy.
Is also like not big enough. So like each one I'm doing like 6 to 10 passes on. So like if I'm doing it like a run of 100, that's a lot of passes.
That's a lot of screen printing.
So, and my house just looks ridiculous, and like lock the cats in a room so I don't get cat hair over everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you've got these screen prints. You've got also a block print.
Which is like my favorite thing to do.
Do you have are you going to be able to share any? I know not everybody, some people probably have some idea what screen printing is, but I think block printing for a lot of people might be hard to picture what it actually looks like.
Yeah, so it's kind of, you have this large piece of like a softish plastic, and there's like a whole range. Like you can block print with wood, which sounds like a pain in the ass to me. And then
my experience, yes, yep.
And there's like linoleum, which is much harder. But I think you can get more prints out of it. You can get really nice and detailed with it. Also kind of a pain in the ass. I like doing, it's not exactly speedy cut, but there's like multiple brands where it's like very soft, which it's almost comparable to like imagine carving into an eraser, I think is a good way to put it. And so, yeah, I get like, I think that one is, yeah, like 12 by 18 or 13 by 19, something like that. And so you just, you know, what you carve is what you carve. I like to transfer and do a lot of like drawing on tracing paper, especially like the semi-shiny kind.
Mm.
And so if you draw on the front of that, and I tend to draw in like 8B anyway.
Ah.
Really like it's some goopy, buttery graphite.
Waxy graphite, good times.
Exactly. And so if you're like drawing on the front of that anyway, all the image you want, you can just turn it over and just rub on the back of it. And it's already like, it makes it so it's reversed and all that other fun stuff. You don't have to worry about it. So if you're doing words, it's not a big problem.
That's really smart.
Yeah. And so yeah, and you take, there's like many kinds of knives and gouges and things like that you can use. I have my eye on this set that I was looking at last night that was like $200 for 6 of them, and I want them so bad. But I can't justify it whatsoever. So what I just use is like the speedball one that you get for like $10.
Yep.
And I have fine grit sandpaper from working on metal anyway, so I just kind of sharpen them on those. I could use a whetstone that we have, but I'm not that serious for some like $3 curving tools.
For the speedball ones.
Yeah.
So then you roll the ink on and you roll I guess you sit the paper on top, right?
Yeah, I like to sit the paper on top, especially if it's something that big.
Yeah.
And because I generally just do one color, I don't have to really like register it.
Yeah.
Very much. So yeah, sit the paper on top, use either the back of a wooden spoon or a Baron. I've graduated to Baron because I'm a professional.
And Baron is just sort of like a curved, like a rounded tool you press the paper down with, right?
Yeah. And it's nice and wide, so you can even pressure on it, so you're not like pushing down on one spot only. I was looking at tools last night. There's also glass ones called a frog.
Yep.
Heavy. Oh man, I want to play with one of those. But yeah. And so you just kind of press it, and it's basically like a giant stamp. It's a good.
That's so awesome. All right, and then the thing that you do that I find the most interesting. Go back again. Sorry, my heater turned on, but I'm turning it off.
Hold for the sake of
legible audio. I'm gonna click on these little guys, but you have these lovely brass and copper handmade pins. And I know you've
Canada.
It's really cold in Canada. Just right now though. It wasn't earlier, but it is right now. No, I'm renting a studio in a really shittily built building, so we heat it however we can. So actually I heated the room up to like too warm, and it's
so you can coast.
Yeah, I can coast down before the hypothermia sets in. Okay. Yeah, these guys are really lovely. So you've talked a bit on Twitter about this process, but do you want to just give a quick overview of like just some of the labor that goes into these guys?
Yeah, so these specifically, most of the shapes that I make, I cut out of sheet. So like I get a sheet that, I don't know, the ones I get are normally like 5 by 8, 4 by 8, something like that, of brass or copper. And it's pure brass, pure copper. I guess brass technically isn't pure, but anyway, it's an alloy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the copper I'm getting is also not pure, but whatever. And I cut my shapes out of sheet with shears, which are basically just scissors. It takes a little bit of oomph to get through them. I try and get the thickest I can get with reasonably being able to cut through it.
Yeah.
And you can get it at most hobby stores and stuff. It tends to be near like modeling areas, like training and like architecture modeling stuff for some reason. It's always in that kind of section near like the weird little brass pipes and stuff. But yeah, you can cut them, and then because you cut them, just like think of a piece of paper when you're cutting it kind of bends a little bit. And it doesn't always lay flat, especially if it's like a thick piece of paper. Metal also does that, especially when you're doing it. So metal also work hardens, meaning like if you're doing anything to it, that area is now actually like harder than the rest of it. So like as you're cutting, that's work hardening that edge that you're doing. So it doesn't want to bend the same. So essentially like I then have to hammer them all flat, which also work hardens them, which is good. It makes it so they're not as susceptible to bending and stuff. And it does it like considerably, like you don't realize how much just hitting something with a hammer actually does that.
Huh.
And a lot of metal does it. It's not just these. And I have a lot of this knowledge. My boyfriend blacksmiths, and I used to mess around on his forge too, but because of that, he has a good knowledge of metallurgy and stuff. And he took like jewelry making classes in college and things. He didn't go to school for blacksmithing. You don't really do that, but he's mostly self-taught that way. But yeah, a little bit of jewelry making. So like most of this stuff, like I never took a class for screen printing or printing in general. It's all self-taught stuff.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. It makes it so there's a learning curve and you mess up a lot, but
I think sometimes like you're going to get into the process of these, but you're doing essentially intaglio etching on these guys, which I studied in school, and no part of me was ever like, you know what I should do with this? I should make small wearables. So I think maybe not having that sort of like formal education may also have not given you a formal perception of what these materials were good for.
Mm-hmm. I actually learned this. I don't remember what. Oh, it was because I started doing this because my boyfriend had asked me to do detail work to maybe like inlay on stuff.
Oh.
And he knew like about like putting a resist and doing different acids, and so I was like researching different acids, especially for copper, and doing PCB boards on computers.
Oh.
You use ferric chloride because it's all just you're etching out copper.
Yeah.
And so that's what I use. Like most of the guides for doing the PCB boards is like what I was following. Especially like you can, instead of painting, what I do to get the image on there after I, hammer and file and file and file and sand and file and file, and like there's a lot of prep work to get to the point where it's blank that I can then put a resist on. Right now I just use like a modeling enamel paint.
Oh.
But model enamel paint that you kind of see, like that people paint models and stuff with. And I use a nice glossy black so I can really see where it is. But you could technically use nail polish or Sharpie works. It doesn't lay as nicely as you want it to, so sometimes it's unpredictable. But like a lot of things work as a resist to ferric chloride. And so I'll paint all of these images on there. But it's kind of a pain in the ass, but you can use toner and do a toner transfer on it, which is like most guides did. Yeah. And so I was doing that at first, but it was really unpredictable. It also, I found out, matters how your laser printer lays down toner as well.
Oh, fun.
Because sometimes they do them in bands, sometimes they do it in dots, and even the fine dots in the background that you can't see transfer on there.
Yeah.
And then so suddenly, like, I would put it in the acid, take it out, and there's just these dots that I didn't even know existed now in this piece, and it looks like trash. And so, like, there's still a lot of that, even if I do paint on it. It depends how my acid feels like working that day, because it does get spent over some time, and it works progressively longer. It takes longer and longer and longer to
because it's dissolving the copper, right? So it's just filling up with copper or brass and not being as acidic anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. And so sometimes like you'll put a big batch in and it just looks like garbage because it's starting to undercut. It's not biting in a predictable way. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes you can salvage it by like really sanding it down. But other times it's just like, cool, I just did like 20 of these.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. There are like better ways I could be doing it, but I probably shouldn't be doing it in my very tiny apartment.
Yeah. Even ferric chloride in large quantities isn't a good thing to inhale a lot of. How do you get the dot in the center of these round ones?
Those are blanks.
Okay, so you purchase them. That is smart.
No way in hell that I can cut a circle. I have looked a lot of finding punches to do it. But they're kind of pricey. And again, I live in an apartment, and I probably, between me and my boyfriend who does woodworking in the apartment, I'm sure our neighbors hate us as it is. I don't need to be punching,
die punching sheets of copper
in our third floor apartment.
Have you considered like getting them die cut?
I have. It's a little pricey. I mean, like as it is, I'm definitely absolutely underpricing.
Also, the prices are appearing in Canadian on this Etsy site, everybody. So if you're having a heart attack, Pam, it's because I'm in Canada.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like,
Our
oh.
dollar is terrible.
So I kind of see it as like at least the blanks, the circle blanks,
Yeah,
are negating some of the time that I spend.
cutting the coffins.
Yeah. I was doing like shield shaped ones that like they just took way too long. Like I would really have to be like charging like 70 some dollars,
Yeah,
which sucked because it was a really cool shape, but I mean at some point there is a price point where people are comfortable paying something. Which I mean it's all balancing out a shop in general. Like you have these things where your price point is really good versus other ones where you're kind of like luring people in where they buy like a pin, but while they're doing that, they might buy 2 prints where like the price point on that is much better for me.
yes, yep.
And I feel like running a shop is a lot of playing with that
Absolutely.
and eating a lot of that learning time.
Yes, figuring out where you can absorb and where you can't absorb costs.
Exactly.
All right, and the last thing that I wanted to get you to give a quick overview on was the hand-sewn banner. Are you doing more of these?
I'd like to. They sold not very well.
They're so beautiful.
They were really fun to do, and my stitching is getting a little bit better. But yeah, I was selling them for I think 30.
Yep, probably maybe 35, judging from the Canadian price.
And so I was like cutting those pipes and filing them down and like sewing them all, and I did most of those on a plane. I think so. I maybe made 8 of those total, and it took 2 years for them all to sell.
Huh.
Really slow.
Yeah.
And I thought they would do because I did them for it was a craft fair. And I was like, oh, I need like I have at that point I had mostly zines and comics in my shop and just prints. And I was like, well, tons of people at the show are gonna have prints and no one's gonna know what the hell a zine is at this very like old ladies in hats type of craft fair.
Yeah.
So I'll have to make like a little bit more crafty things. And they just like did not sell. I don't know why. Because I think they were really fun. Or I'd have people pick them up and be like, $30. It took me a long time to do.
Well, little old ladies aren't, they don't have the same value on their hour.
Yeah.
You know?
And so, I mean,
no, I don't know.
It's like you have to compete with price points of store-bought things.
Yep.
Too, and so it, like, yeah. I think that's why a lot of people really like enamel pins right now because there's like a set price that kind of like across the board that everyone charges, whether you buy it from a store or from an individual or what. So
yeah, we're all able to sort of order these and make a reasonable profit margin with the fixed price.
Yeah.
Which again I think is like $9 or $10, judging from the.
Yeah, I charge 10 on mine.
Yeah. God, that exchange rate is brutal.
Yeah. I'm a little scared for TCAP and ManCap. Being like, sorry, you guys, here's this $40 thing.
Again, it's definitely a juggling thing, and also figuring out the cheapest way to ship stuff.
Yeah.
To get it here, so that you don't have to cover too much in shipping.
Exactly.
I definitely want to pick your brain about the pins, but for that, you'll probably want to crack open and show us your source files. So. Do you want to flip over and I'll walk people through my store, and then if you want, you can.
Yeah, I can get that stuff up.
Cool. Do we have any questions that we want to answer in the chat on the Pam store before we move on?
Nothing.
Cool. All right, we're doing great. So this is my store. I use Big Cartel. Because when I got a store in 2012, they had a free, completely free tier. They still have a completely free tier where you just list 5 items for free. They don't take any transaction charges. You can use PayPal or Stripe to process things, and then it's a really great way to get started without paying anything extra. But I've since graduated to a much higher tier where I pay a monthly fee. Um, but it's proven to be worth it. So this is their fancy layout. And they let me have feature categories with where they highlight the first product in each category, and then 8 featured products. And then yeah, you have to click through to shop everything. But yeah, so I do a lot of book stuff. So I have by Crom, which is a perfect bound, offset printed, full color, 100 and some pages book that I did a Kickstarter to fund. I have a risograph zine, another risograph zine, and then I have a digitally printed full color zine. I just recently put up a bunch of package deals.
Oh, I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, where I was like, I'll just make like some themed packages and like knock some money off. If people are going to buy more than one thing, then they might as well save some money. So those are in a new experiment that I tried to. This one is like, if you play D&D, maybe you want my zine about D&D and a wizard and a zine about magical places and a pencil case with Cthulhu on it.
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah, and then one that's like landscapes. But then yeah, then I've been doing by Crom for 5 years, and there's a lot of things that I always wished I could offer that I'm now figuring out how to offer. So I made 3 different pencil case designs. I did a poll on Twitter and was like, if I offered like a fine art way to take home a by Crom comic, would you want is paper fine, or do you want something fancier like wood or canvas prints? And people were like, wood prints. So I made a wood print, and I got my prototype, and it's really really nice. So and then I've listed 5 comics in. These are like again like Giclée fine art prints. And then, yeah, I've got a few more risograph just prints. This is like 8 by 8, and this is a 11 by 17 poster. Black and white scenes. And then I get into, yeah, I've started some other pencil cases. These are some test run t-shirts. I'm ordering some other prototypes, and then I'll probably actually sit down and do proper photo shoots.
I've always wanted to do like t-shirts and stuff. It scares the heck out of me. Like,
yeah. If you know how to screen print, then you have like one way to make shirts like that are really lovely and gorgeous. But then, yeah, the overhead is brutal on screen printing t-shirts.
T-shirts cost a lot of money.
They do. I will show you how I do them. Yeah, and then I have a lot of original art up in my store. Oh, and these zines that I should probably move because they're not with the other zines. They're just hanging out back here. So yeah, it's really like for the wall art, it really varies. I've got these the wood prints and the Giclée prints. These ones I do print on demand, so I'm not stocking these. I don't have a big pile of them in my apartment.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, I found a Canadian company that I will walk you guys through called Art of Wear that actually syncs up with my big cartel. So I order prototypes to make sure the colors are right, or as close as I can reasonably get them. And then I do a photo shoot with them, and then I list them. And I tie the listing in my big cartel store to Art of Wear. When somebody orders one of these, I pass the order along to Art of Wear automatically. And I go in and I hit go, and they produce it and send it.
Oh my gosh, that's so much nicer than Redbubble and stuff.
It's the step up from like Redbubble and Society6 and Cafe Press.
Like at least like then it's all in one spot. And I know that like that is an issue that I've been running into is like if I have like a Redbubble and this and this and this, it's hard to keep everything in one spot.
Yep.
And like, do you offer the same things across the board or?
And like, how do you control the pricing? Because some of those places, it's fixed.
Yeah. It's like you have a horrible cut.
Yeah. Like, I was going to say that the main problem for me with places like Society6 and Redbubble and Cafe Press is that the profit margin is tiny.
Yeah, it's just like you sold 100 things this month, and you're like, oh, awesome, and you're just like, you get $36, and you're like,
oh, damn. No, working the way that, like that process where I list it in my store, the order goes to the person printing it and they ship it on my behalf. That's called drop shipping.
Good term to know.
Yeah, it is. It is a very helpful thing to Google, and the profit margin tends to be, between 30 and 50% on the sort of the comfortable sale price. So that it makes it a lot more effective to do. Like, it's one thing for these guys, like, to order a print in the mail, shipping isn't too bad. It comes to me, I do a photo shoot, like my overheads aren't too bad. If I have to order multiple wood prints to get the colors right, then I need to make sure I can make back that money. So that's definitely a thing I think about. Whereas these risograph prints, I just have piles of them around.
Yeah.
So that, and then that means that, like, for these guys, if I'm totally swamped, but I get, a bunch of orders, then they're still going to get shipped and sent out in a timely manner. But with these guys and my books, if I get swamped with freelance or it's convention season and I'm not home, then, my store orders will sit and languish for a while sometimes.
Yeah.
So that is a thing that I'm trying to make sure that I have things in my store that will get to people promptly.
Yeah. I'm always interested in like the difference between fine art prints and like risograph or screen prints and stuff like that. And I don't know, at my table at shows, people often get like disappointed that what I have is not a screen print because like what I do looks like a print.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to your prints, they are like using screen print language, like not just like, oh, it's limited colors, but you're overlapping them in a way that feels like a screen print.
Yeah, and so people get like annoyed that they're not. Whereas like they'll go to the next table where everything's a digital print and it's fine for them. And I'm just like, what? So you're willing to pay the same amount there? I don't know. It's interesting, especially the difference between like zine and comic shows. Yeah. Very different.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's a big difference. Like for me, the like being able to offer risograph prints is nice, but I find that sometimes people don't understand the value because risograph does, like, it's not the cheapest way to print.
Yeah.
It's not crazy expensive, and it's a lot cheaper than if you're just doing 2 colors or 1 color risograph, it can be a lot cheaper than a full color digital, fine art archival giclée print. Like the cost for making the Crush Your Enemies is a lot higher than the cost for making a print like this, but of the same size. This print is much bigger, but if I was making, this is essentially a 6x6 image. If I was printing that off archivally, that would be a much higher cost than the risograph, but the risograph is still not super cheap.
I have like, I don't know, Rizzo, how, I don't know. I don't know, it appeals to me more. There's like, I don't know, I lean on the zine end of comics.
Yep.
And I don't know, there's just something so much more appealing to me.
I think it's
process that it has to look away. I don't know. It's so nice. But meanwhile, I think so. We tabled next to each other at Emerald City, and like someone came up to me and was just like, "Oh, your like work looks like this other person's work who had like a Rizzo zine," and they were like, "Shame that it didn't line up." And I'm like, "You shut your mouth."
That makes it perfect.
And it's just interesting to hear people's like expectations of things, and I don't know. It's just really, it sucks in that you have to kind of make those decisions and really figure out what you want. Like, I love your Rizzo zine. I think it's beautiful.
There's definitely like this one you can see a little bit in the hands, but like Rizzo doesn't always line up. It's like a screen print. It can get
planned for that too. Like, don't make something where everything needs to be dead on.
Or, at least where it's legible, even if it's not dead on.
Exactly. Like, make sure it can read. Like, you have a nice dark color there, so, like, those outlines will always read against that green,
But yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I can see how the first time you do it, you can get ambitious and it might not land. Certainly my instinct. making zines to stick at, trying to like layer as many things as possible. I'm going to flip out a screen share though for a second and just hold up stuff to the camera, I think.
Yeah.
All right, let's stop sharing. Any second now. There we go. And yeah. All right. So yeah, like this is a risograph zine. Boop. So there are definitely places where it doesn't line up, but they are tiny, tiny things. I would say the other thing about risograph that is maybe more of a concern is that it will rub off. So this is the copy that I have on my table for people to touch and get their greasy fingerprints on and manhandle, but as a result of being shipped to and from a million cons and getting looked at by a million people, it does the heavy ink coverage will rub off very easily.
I think that's a good example. It's like not that much.
No, and like I don't think that it certainly doesn't render anything illegible. Like I'm still getting a great read on this page.
Yeah.
And this is probably the most ambitious risograph page I've done in terms of layering so many inks at like 100%. But that said, like it can reduce the perceived value for people who don't understand the medium.
Yeah.
And that can be a problem. Oh, I've locked it on me still. Please, God, stop that. There we go. Yeah, let's see what we got. Jimmy Grist says that Redbubble's a little sketchy with their copyright claim stuff. And yeah, that is a big fact as well on Society 6 and Cafe Press.
I know I've taken down stuff. So like I had a Black Lives Matter image get kind of big and have caught multiple people trying to sell it on like those type of websites.
And why?
I don't know. Like, I guess it's because I wasn't selling it anywhere, but I didn't want to sell it. I didn't want to make money off of it, and it bothered me that other people were doing that. But so, like, if you like throw, if you throw them like a please take this down, it's not a particularly like they don't have a very good system for it. It's just an email, and they never contact you after the fact to tell you whether they've done it or not. It's just like I feel like this could be handled better. Probably on both ends to make everyone like I'm sure like we can make your job easier if you had like an actual system to it.
Yeah, seriously. And Odd Bebop 7 also adds that screen printing disappointment is probably just people being like, oh, we're so smart, we detected a screen print, and then being like, oh no, we weren't smart.
It's definitely a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so risograph, like, also if you print Riso or Riso zines, don't stack them like this, because you'll get the cover rubbing off on the back of the next one.
That's actually a good heads up.
Yeah, just, you know, either have full ink coverage on both sides or don't. But that's okay. That's part of the thing. Let's see if I have one here. I now, like for these guys, I have this one copy that gets all beat up, and then the rest I sell bagged. And I've learned that any zine I have that has large white space on the cover, I need to do this. Or they will just get so gross so fast in the process of like carting them around or packing them to ship or anything.
Yeah, I learned with one of mine that has a very white cover that the black box that I keep them in rubs off.
Ooh.
Like, okay, cool. Thanks, IKEA.
That's a fun one. Yeah. So you were talking about t-shirts and like how scary they are and how hard it is to sort of find the overhead for them. And I have been trying to find a way to do t-shirts that was like effective for a long time. And I had a Society 6 store and I would order bulk and it was sort of, I've got a couple left over that I will probably put on like a $5 t-shirt stand at a local con sometime.
Yeah.
But so this is how it printed. And you can see a little haloing, and it's kind of blurry. The colors are really good. I give them points for the colors, but I was unhappy with a lot of the precision of their printing. And I would often like order 10 shirts and then send 5, or like photograph 5 that were like so blurry I didn't think I could sell them. And then they would send me those ones again, and then I would just have more shirts.
Yeah.
And some of them would be fine, but not great. So then I found a website that also does drop shipping for t-shirts and hats and other apparel called The Printful, and it's amazing. It's like crazy, crazy sharp. I like this is I did this just as a little special occasion Halloween shirt, but like so happy with it. No haloing. Really, really clear. And this is like I have now worn this probably once a week since Halloween. It's been through the wash a million times.
That's pretty good.
Uh, it's I don't know. I need shirts that I can wear around children because I work with kids, but I'm also a giant metalhead and a nerd. So Ghost Corgi covers all the bases.
Yeah.
But they have like a million t-shirt brands and like a million different models, and they're just fantastic. And they're based in the States. So for anybody in the States, that's awesome. For me in Canada, it's expensive. And it means that I have to compensate for a currency shift in my pricing. So I have to sort of like guess how much the dollar is going to be. So if we have a major change, then I will be in there furiously updating my shop prices.
Yeah. But it was, I don't know, for shipping and all of that fun stuff, it's so much heartache and so much eating. Like your first shipment to like, oh, cool, this is my first shipment to Finland. Oh, God.
Yep.
That is like a $20 shipment for a $5 item.
Yep. Okay. And you're like, I didn't know.
Yeah. And like, either you have to contact the person and be like, hey, I know I charged you this much, but I can't do it, or just eat it and immediately change your listings. It's not fun.
It's pretty brutal. Being in Canada, shipping is like most of my life. The cost of shipping is, for me to ship from Toronto to the other side of Canada is more expensive to do from Toronto to say Vancouver than it would be from New York to say Vancouver.
Weird.
Yeah, because we don't have the shipping infrastructure and the States does. So it's cheaper to ship within the States. And then you guys have media mail. So for anybody who ships in the States, if you have something that could be construed as a book, there's a special tier of shipping for that, where it doesn't care how heavy it is, and it just very slowly and cheaply ships it over ground to whoever bought it.
You know, for Kickstarters and stuff.
Holy shit, yes. As a Canadian, I had to find a service that lets me essentially use their stamps.com account to buy US postage and then pay them to drive my packages over the border.
It still sounds way better.
It's significant savings. And it means that before, about half of the mail I got from my store, if not more, was people being like, wow, seriously, $15 to ship one zine to the States? That's turned into mostly just people being like, when are you going to ship that, Rachel?
Yeah. I think that's what they do for TCAF more or less too, like to ship to TCAF or VanCAF from the US, they have you shipped to somewhere, I think in Buffalo for TCAF.
Yeah.
And they bring it over because it would just be insane otherwise.
Yeah, the cost of getting things over the border in postage is insane. And then like customs is like, and it's not that you dodge customs completely. Customs certainly has held things that I've tried to ship, especially if I'm shipping original art and the value price tag is high. It just sits at customs.
Yeah. For
like a month. So like you're not dodging it completely with any of these services, because that would be super illegal. But I do think that they approach it differently when there's somebody who's driving over with sort of goods versus somebody having like the guy at the like postage customs. He's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to know more about that if there's anybody watching who knows more about that stuff.
I feel like at the time I've just guessed at what to write for customs. Thankfully on like Etsy and stuff, it kind of does it for you. And that's one of the main reasons I haven't left Etsy.
Nice. That is super good to know.
I know that it would probably behoove me to get like a big cartel or something like that, but like shipping on Etsy is so easy. It's like really easy. And I don't know. I've just had such good luck with it and been on it for so long.
Yeah. No, and I feel that way about Big Cartel. Like I joined it when it was exactly what I needed, and it isn't perfect, but it has most of the things I need, and I know how it works. And it also is one of the systems that plugs into these drop shipping services, which reduces a lot of my time when I have to go from somebody placing an order to me making sure it gets to them. So it's not that you can't use drop shipping services without it plugging in. It's just smoother and faster if it does. So I'm happy to pay my monthly fee, which I think is like $20 a month right now to have 100 listings. And so far I haven't done that at a loss since I did it. So 2 thumbs up, Big Cartel. I do get some stats and stuff as well.
But here's the good question is when you get stuff printed, like books wise, how many do you do all at once and how long does that last you?
So I worked in like a print shop for like I put myself through university by working in print shops, and then I worked in like digital printing research and development for 2 years afterwards. So I like to think I know my way around a printer, but I'm also now 10 years out of date. But it makes me really like I know that it is cheaper to do it at a store than to do it at home, unless you buy a commercial printer, because the toner cost is
so much.
Yeah, and like when you're loading a thing of black toner that's like this big, and then a thing of cyan and yellow and magenta, and they're all this big, like you're getting a lot of toner per packaging for your giant 4.5 foot tall Xerox. But if you have a table laser, then your toner cartridges are much smaller, and then you have to buy more, and it's just bulk economics. So I just utterly shamelessly go to a print store that is 3 doors down from my comic studio, where I've worked with the guy now for 5 years. And that's Printorium, if anybody from Toronto is watching. And the guy is Albert, and tell him I sent you. He's absolutely the best. It's a super, like in terms of like what they do for zines, they have like a pretty specific kind of paper stock that they have on hand. You can bring in your own paper if you have something fancy in mind. But yeah, so for this, which is like a color cover on like 10 point and then 24-pound uncoated interior black and white. I did a run of these. I did 100 of these. It took 4 years for them to sell. I think I printed another 200, and they've gone a lot faster. They do take up space, but thankfully 200 of a book this size tends to fit in one box.
Yeah.
These guys, when I did the Riso, I work with Color Code Printing in Toronto for Risograph as well, and they have a lot of custom colors. I'm pretty sure this teal that I'm addicted to is a custom color they have made. Awesome. Guys, I like teal. But I printed 200 of these, and that's 3 boxes. And these came out to about $5.50 each Canadian. Actually, printing within Canada, most things are cheaper if you're American who do it in the States. But printing in Canada isn't too bad because we have all of the trees. And we make a lot of paper here, so we're not getting totally screwed on that, which is really nice. You just have to find a service. But printing 200 of them brought the price down on each individual book. So if I printed 100, they might have been $7 or $8 each. And if I'd printed less than that, they might have been $10 each. And this way I can sell them for $10 each.
That's always like I find a really difficult thing. Is like it's definitely the more you print, the cheaper it is in the long run. But like you're just like, okay, am I actually going to sell all these things? Where am I going to put all these things?
Yeah, I think storage is like the, you have to look at how much money you have because you like don't print on credit.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You have to look at where you can put everything. And then you can look at how long you're willing to let it take to sell them all. So like these guys I've been selling since 2014, 2013, 2013, I think. Um, and so like the art in them is really old, but they're full of concept art for a comic I'm still selling for a comics that is like the first in a series. So it makes sense to keep these in stock.
Yeah.
Um, I made these little museum zines when I was looking for sort of like, I do zine fairs as well in the city and I love them. And I was looking to like make something that was small and I could sell at a really low price point. So they're black and white inside. It's all just bond 20-pound paper, stapled, color just on the one side of the cover. Um, and I printed 50 of this one and 50 of a sort of partner zine. I can sell them for $3 and turn a profit. But I like they're not something that like it's a sketchbook zine. It's not going to stay current. I probably, if I look closely at these drawings, hate them all passionately now. Um,
Yeah,
as you do.
you retire things and
Yeah, like this is a 5-year-old zine maybe. So I printed them with a little numbering system in the corner.
see.
And I was like, all right, you're not allowed to reprint these. I have printed this many. They have, I've got 3 of this one left. When they're done, they're done. And I walk away. But yeah, they're really easy to store. They essentially, like, I think both zines just made like a stack like this when I had 50 of each, which is like, that goes on my bookshelf. So for like getting started with like trying out printing in bulk, like little zines is a good call. The other trick to getting cheap printing, this is a fun one. First off, probably don't do weird shaped books.
Yeah.
But also,
Can't get like off of a page from that or something. It's always like, oh god.
Yeah. So when I did by Chrome I did offset. So that's, you have to print probably at least 500, if not 1,000 copies of something to make it worth using the offset print process. And that is essentially block printing with these huge rolls where they have 4 colors of ink and each roll has been exposed with your page. And then they print it so that to cover the cost of the exposing and running up the machine and all the other work, you have to print a ton. But if you print 1,000, even if there's color, it can be super, super affordable compared to printing this book digitally using a laser printer or something like an iGen, which they call a digital press. So with these guys, I knew that I needed to do it cheaply. I wanted to print a lot of them. They're sort of like I did the comic prize book. And I think they're like 120 or 140 pages. I didn't number the pages. I missed that part of the book design, but God, it's another teal thing. But I sent them the size I wanted, and they wrote back and they said, if you take 1/3 of an inch off that on either size, your cost drops dramatically because we can fit more pages on a sheet.
Yeah.
So what you want to do is find you a printer who talks to you like they talk to me. You want somebody who's going to tell you how to maximize your use of their materials so you're getting the best value for your dollar.
Yeah.
Because if you have a printer who's printing, mostly they normally have 12 by 18 sheets, which I can't find one to hold up. But if you have a 12 by 18 inch sheet and you want to print, an odd size where you're only going to fit like 2, but then there's a lot of empty paper, then you're still getting charged to print the whole 12 by 18 sheet if it's going through a laser or an offset. Like they just charge per sheet of color or black and white. So if you are able to sort of adjust your sizes to make the most use of the paper, then you will get better results financially. If you're printing at home with an inkjet or I think just an inkjet, then it's less about how many sheets you print and more about how much color is on that sheet.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, so printing like a a very sparse, lightly pastel colored image that's mostly just like outlines, you're going to be saving a lot of money on ink compared to
like a full
this. Yeah. So like if I was printing these at home, and I now also have a very nice Epson printer, like this one would be really cheap for me to print at home compared to these guys, just because it's just black and it's not as sparsely or not as densely colored. Like the ink coverage, which is how much ink has to go on the page to make the color, the ink coverage is way down on the black and white one and way higher in these guys.
With my laser printer, I've played around with it quite a bit, but have learned that if I print in econo mode, specifically on this one, like each printer I've had does it differently and has a different look to it. The one I have right now, actually, it looks very attractive, and I can still get very vibrant color, but it looks kind of like a Rizzo.
I think it's more dotty. They space out the DPI more.
Exactly. So it's spaced out and stuff, and it looks really good, and I'm saving a lot on it while still getting pretty vibrant color. And I like that washed out look, so it kind of works for me. It wouldn't work for everyone, but like I am also designing knowing that that's what I'm doing in the end.
Which is really, really important. Like I think that's like the main thing about doing any of this stuff is you have to design for your end product on some level.
Yeah, doing it the other way around just like leaves you like way in the hole and recording everything.
Yep.
Making 30 cents or negative money and everything you sell, and it just kind of sucks.
Yeah. So I also did mugs through Society 6, just in an effort to try everything. Yeah. And at the time, Society 6 was the only place I knew to make stuff like that, print on demand. The site I used for the t-shirts, the printful.com, also make mugs.
That's pretty sweet.
So I just got this in the mail. But here's one reason you should design for the product and not try and stretch an existing design onto a product. This mug, I think, looks really nice.
Yeah.
Right? It's just black and white. Like you can see that gleam. It's really like it's a mug. They've achieved mug.
It's a successful mug.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's not like a hand-turned piece of pottery that like you can feel the artist maker in it. But like, if I want to sell a mug with Conan walking my dog on it, then this is I've done it. But I also have this comic where Conan yells out, "Arise! A new battle awaits you!" And I was like, that'd be really fun to have on a coffee mug. Wouldn't that be hilarious? But it's got this white border.
It's not that bad.
Okay, but you had to say that guy.
There. Oh no, it clips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't look as good. It doesn't look like as intentional a product as this one, where I really did. I like had these sketches and I was like, I'm going to design these into a mug. Or this one, I was like, what if I like cropped the comic and like put it on the mug? And it's not bad, but I'm not motivated to sell it. I don't think that it looks as high quality or as successfully designed as this guy. So this guy I have to take home and do the photo shoot with now, and then I get to list it in my store.
Yeah, designing for products is so much different. Just like, and differently when you see it digitally and then when it's actually in your hand is also.
Yeah, it's really easy to look at a mock-up and be like, yeah, it'll be fine, and then put it on.
Oh, speaking of which, I have those pin designs ready.
Yes, awesome. Okay, I'm going to switch it onto you, and you can pull up your share screen, which is in that little menu on the left. It's the green screen with the arrow.
All right. So I have, let's see. Is it working?
Yep.
There we go.
There we are.
So in these, I used Illustrator, which is what I used to use pretty much exclusively. For like years, I would doodle something and then just take a picture of it with my webcam.
Okay.
And then just draw it out on my trackpad in Illustrator.
That's a process that I don't think you're alone in.
Yeah, and I did it a lot, and I got really fast with it. Like I hated using a mouse. So yeah, it's not. I don't know. My lines are still there. Like I haven't done it in a long time, so this was like the first time I had used Illustrator in a long time doing these. So I have like these crow heads, and in my shop, so I did hard enamel pins. So there's soft enamel and hard enamel pins. The difference to most people, it would be like soft enamel is all of the areas have like divots, all of the areas of color.
Hmm.
And so you can kind of feel the texture of where all the lines are, whereas hard enamel, it's kind of like straight across the top, which to me feel a little bit more lush. So I was like, yeah, let's do that. So it's slightly more expensive. But again, it's one of those things where if you order more, they're cheaper. And so it was a good cost for me. One of the issues is most places won't do hard enamel with like black.
Oh.
The metal, and that metal is like coated in particular ways. So what I did was gunmetal. And designing around metallics is effing awful, turns out. So like it was, thankfully it went back and forth with the person at the pin company I was talking to about what would look better. And like, especially with like a crow, it's like, well, I want it to be dark, but I don't want it to like get lost against the gunmetal, and I don't want it to clash against the gunmetal either. So like I had multiple colors I had showed her. And I think these are all really, really sloppy. Yeah, you can't see my files.
That's fair. You make that call.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I just like recolored them a whole bunch of times. Here's one that got lost in the mail during Emerald City.
Oh.
Which apparently, I don't know, fingers crossed will get solved.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful for you. When they do, can I buy like 100?
Right?
Seriously, this is amazing.
So that's another one, and I don't know, I've had a really bad time getting things color accurate on a lot of stuff. And I'm never sure, I don't know, it goes from like person to person, print shop to print shop. So like if you can get approved, always get approved. I don't know. It's like I've done projects recently where they're all Pantone and they look great. You know, it's exactly what it looks like on my screen. And then recently was part of Anthology where my image came out like 30 to 40% darker than what I had intended.
Yeah.
Working in their color profile and everything. And I'm just, I know my screen's not that off. I just did this with something else.
Having worked in print, it is a fucking crapshoot. In a lot of ways, unless you have the money for some serious equipment.
Yeah.
Like there are ways to be really precise, and you'll see people who work in color correction on film and TV, or people who are working in fashion, so forth. Like they definitely have tools to do that, but those tools are very expensive. For the enamel pins, did they send you like Pantone swatch colors?
So they tell me what swatches that they work with in.
Mm-hmm.
And so in like Illustrator, you can just bring that up.
But then you're hoping your screen is showing that swatch accurately.
Yeah. And so like hopefully you've had some experience where like you can kind of estimate what your screen is doing. I keep getting tempted to get one of those like color corrector spider monitor calibrators.
Yeah.
Still haven't done that because it's like $100 or something.
Yeah, even the cheapest ones are outrageous.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just using a cough drop to not go hoarse. The other thing this is fun. This is a fun fact. Most computer screens do not show the full Adobe RGB gamut.
No. Yeah.
Some of them don't even show all of sRGB, which is the web safe gamut that we've all agreed upon. So it's not that there's no hope, but that there may be colors that will just, certain specific colors that will just never totally line up. And a lot of those are going to be trying to get blues to look right in print.
Yeah.
And like high saturation anything.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like, you don't realize it until, because most people only have like maybe 1, 2 computers that are anywhere near each other.
Yeah.
Or that they're looking at the same things on. But like, I recently, like, so I played like Night in the Woods and had my boyfriend play it, and I'd go to look at his screen, and it is so different. It was markedly different.
It's brutal.
His screen was just so much bluer, and it's like, I don't know, it just drove me nuts, first off, but like...
Makes you really sympathize with people who make digital-only products that could show up anywhere.
It was nuts. I don't know. But yeah, these are other ones, previous designs, and then 2 more that will hopefully show up sometime soon.
I'm really hopeful for you.
Yeah.
I can't believe you fit an entire vulture into an enamel pin.
Yeah, I don't know how that one's going to look. I'm a little scared.
I think it's going to look great. Holy cow.
I sent that to the pin person, and they were just like, this is not going to fit on an inch. I was like, I assumed.
How big are those ones going to be then?
I think that one's going to be 1.5 inches.
Okay. Do you print out like finished size samples to see?
I do. I'll show you. Yeah, I have it at my desk, so it works. I do sometimes do that because having something in your hands is oftentimes like way different than what you look at on a screen. I feel like there's some comics that I see that I'm just like, you have no idea how that's going to look like printed, do you?
Yeah.
Where, like, there's so much really, really fine detail, like itty bitty lines, and it's like, you could have made that look so beautiful. But I guess like that instinct to like zoom in a million times and work in these itty bitty places is very tempting. And to like have this broader overview works out better. I think it's a problem that a lot of digital stuff has.
Yeah, I do a lot of like fantasy, trying to aim for slightly more realistic illustration, and for print in big 8.5 by 11 hardcover RPG books. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I'll make some like little postcard prints of them, and they don't read at that size.
Oh.
Like they work only at the size they've been drawn or slightly larger. Whereas, thank God I did by Crom with like the number 3 chisel tip, because it's super legible, and I've been able to do everything from throw it on mugs to like recently I printed out these pencil cases.
Oh, they're pretty awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I really, again, this is Art of Wear, so I'll give you guys a quick tour of their website and how it all syncs up. After you finish showing us, if you wanted to show us one more thing.
Oh yeah, I was going to show you another example of like having something be so different on a screen versus in real life. So I got hired to do a match book for a local hoity-toity restaurant that I will never eat at in a million years, because they literally, their payment was like, oh, we can give you, I think it was $1,000 or
for a whole book?
For a matchbook.
Oh, okay.
Literal matchbook.
Okay, which is a lot lovely.
Yeah, it was like, oh, we can pay you $1,000 or a meal for 4. I was like, however tempting that is, I would like to like eat food for a longer period of time with that $1,000. It was like more. It came out to more than that, but like, yeah. So that's an example of like, I'm never ever going to this place.
Wow.
Endless nearby, and it's itty bitty. I mean, it's a small.
You need to hold that right up, yeah.
It's so little. And so like, I had this on my screen, and I have like one of those giant iMac monitors plugged into my laptop, but like, you can blow it up infinitely on your screen, but at the end of the day, like, it's barely 1 inch high, and it's not going to read the same.
No.
It was rough. I kept having to like sketch it out, and even like my sketches were larger, because most people like work larger, shrink down, because it kind of like makes it look nicer. And so I just kept having to do that and print it out and be like, oh my God, no. Oh God. Less no. Oh God. So yeah, I really like doing product design stuff. But Yeah, that's definitely like not the most intuitive thing in the world is just sizing different things. I don't know.
It's brutal. Another example I have of like, oh, it looks great on my screen, and it took 4 tries to get it to look good in this medium is this Call of Cthulhu
Yeah.
pencil case. Which again, with the backlight, all of this detail is really legible.
Yeah.
To even get it to read as well as it does here, um, it took like multiple tries and a lot of file edits, and then on this side we have Cthulhu,
Yeah.
who again, like there's so much digital file detail in here, but if it's going to be printed on a pencil case, it has to read as a silhouette, with like some highlighting, and you can see his face, and like you can start to make out some tentacles, but like yeah, otherwise. And it's not just that like um, the colors changed when it printed, but that the like difference from light to dark on my computer screen and the difference from light to dark on a high quality RPG book page and the difference from light to dark on a pencil case, uh, like computer screen has this high quality, like, beautifully printed RPG book has probably like this, and these pencil cases have like this.
Yeah.
Like the dark isn't very dark and the light isn't very light, and that's just how it is. So
All those
relying on those middle zones.
super muddy and
Yeah, they were illegible. The colors weren't very vibrant. On the other hand, because Bicrom relies on black outlines and white word bubbles, it reads great,
yeah.
at all times, wherever I put it. Thank God I made that thing 4 years ago. But yeah, like it's definitely a process of like learning what the new medium you're working in is, because anytime you're making a new product, it's kind of a new medium. So
Yeah, there's a huge learning curve on so much of that stuff, and it helps to like this kind of thing, like to hear other people talk about the things that they've gone through and maybe like little mistakes that like you could potentially make, but like no matter what, you're gonna make mistakes because no one's the same.
It's totally a process. Like another example, I have this is my giclée print of this comic. This is the wood print. There's some intentional difference. Like this is on a very bright white paper.
Yeah.
You're like paying for the whiteness and the light, like the bright reflective surface of the paper. And then this is on wood. So it's going to be darker, and it's going to be warmer, and the warm tones got really warm, and the cool tones started to be really saturated.
Yeah.
And it works for this comic. It probably won't work on every comic. So if I'm going to offer more comics, I will always have to get a proof and make sure that they look good on wood. But this one I'm pretty happy with, because it adds. But yeah, they're really like, they're not hecking around with it. Like they're very, yeah, they're very well made. But it definitely, like, you have to be prepared to see your work translated, essentially.
Yeah, like you can't.
Do that up.
I mean, you probably could in a very perfect world if you had infinite money make things look exactly as you wanted them all the time. But yeah, you have to work within the limits of the thing you're doing.
Yeah, in the end, that's all you can do. Yeah. Do you guys want me to do a quick walkthrough on the drop shipping sites I use?
Yes.
All right. Pam, would you like to see where to get t-shirts made?
Yes.
Also, terribly depressing making t-shirt info. American Apparel filed for bankruptcy and got bought by Gildan. So if you really like American Apparel shirts.
Yep.
So we'll see if they persist. But yeah, here, I will pull this up, and then I will share my screen. So let's pop it on me.
I just realized I alter so many of my shirts that like I don't know what brand my favorite shirts are.
Yeah, that seems fair. All right, I'm going to try this. Let's see if this works. Is that working on your end?
Yes.
All right, so this is the Printful. So this is where you can see I've hooked it up with my Big Cartel store. So you can see all of those products that you saw me show you on the Big Cartel store. And I've chosen to sync or not sync them. So majority of my Big Cartel products are not synced with the Printful store. but the t-shirts are synced. And to do that, you go in, and for each shirt, so for this one, I'm like, I've got green and purple shirts in 6 sizes.
That's really cool.
You have to sync each size.
Like the difference between like getting shirts made at like a print shop, which is always really, really cool to like be able to support someone running a print shop and stuff like that. But you then need to make the decision of like, do I stock everything from a small to 3XL?
Yeah.
Because like I have plenty of friends who like are up to 3XL, and I wouldn't want them to have my shirts, you know, like.
Yeah.
Well, what home do you live in? Or like what studio do you have that has that space? Because I want it.
Yeah. It's definitely being able to do it this way means that you get to do that. Like it's whatever shirt model you choose, you have access to all of the sizes that shirt comes in, and you can browse them. So yeah, this is just like I have to sync. Like this is a medium heather green rabbit shirt. This is a extra large purple rabbit shirt. And so those are all synced to the rabbit shirt product. And then I have to do that with each of these. And so like for the Bella Canvas by Crom shirt, which I really like the soft cream color, and that I'm going to keep offering for sure. They go up to 4XL, which is awesome. And I want to be able to offer this shirt to people in any fucking size. It infuriates me the number of places that don't have anything over an XL. So like for me that's important, but yeah, there's no way that I could stock 8 or 7 sizes of a shirt like and keep them in stock and afford to do that and be able to do any work in my studio.
Exactly.
Like I already have a giant box of padded envelopes. That is my decadent thing. So this is like the basic store plugin. Just sort of shows you that. But then let me see, we can like quick look at the order form. Yeah, so that is an order that somebody sent through for a product that was in my store that I hadn't come into the Printful to say to ignore or sync. So it's a product that I've since ignored, and that's why it's sitting there saying not synced because the order showed up. So I have to deal with that still, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Let's head over to the main site somehow. Go to homepage. So they want to print on whatever you want them to print on. And I don't need to be a giant ad for them, but they will print on a bazillion things. I so far have made shirts and mugs with them. And I showed you guys the shirts and the mugs, and I'm very happy with them. I want to show you a little bit of what those shirts are like. I have also tried out their all-over shirts. And while I like the printing, the shirt I printed had a hand in an unfortunate spot.
Oh no.
Which is why you always get proofs. Always get proofs. If you happen to have a wizard with 9 hands, one of them might be wrong for a shirt. At that particular size. If I was a different size, the hand would be in a different spot. Lesson learned. But yeah, so they have like just an outrageous array of shirts that you can print on. And you can still order American Apparel through them, but they have sent out a big email being like, we are not able to buy any more American Apparel shirts. So when we run out, we run out. If you are designing new products, we do not recommend.
American Apparel stuff.
Yeah. But you can search for products. You can search for products that have like extra small available, which you can get in a crop tee, or you can search for products that have a 6XL available, which you can get in a Hanes beefy tee. So you can really plan your products around like having the most broad size line or looking for specific colors or obviously shapes. So recently I wanted to do baseball tee design. So I came in here, and while I really love the American Apparel baseball tees, they really recommend I don't use that anymore. So I ended up trying out the Tultex, and I'm waiting on a proof from them right now. But the way that you do that, you pop in here, you take a look at what you want. And then if you're like, okay, I really like this, I want to design a product with it, you can go over to the mock-up generator, go back in and find that shirt, That was a men's long sleeve, Teltex. And then what you do is you have this folder full of files. And you can see I've already done this, but I'll go through the process quickly here for everybody. I've uploaded the Hexabunny shirt PNG, which is like a very high resolution, transparent PNG, where only the parts I want to appear on the shirt are opaque and everything else is transparent. So I choose that file and it appears in the printable area on the shirt, which they delineate for you. So when you mouse over it, it activates. When you mouse off, it goes away. So you can see what the shirt looks like. So then I'm like, I know I want the gray on gray. So I'm going to turn off all the other options. So there are like, you can print and you can do mock-ups for multiple options. I like the gray and gray. And then if I come in here and I'm like, yeah, I really want this to be a little bit smaller, a little bit more centered, and pull it down a little bit. Like I can do all of that. And what this does is it's going to generate a file that will fill this area at a nice DPI that the printer that you're going to be using to print the shirt is compatible with. And then it'll generate a mock-up image. So I can create that. And if I'm like, okay, I really like this look. And maybe I'll do it for 2 so you guys can see. We'll do like a green rabbit shirt as well. We go in here, and so our files are the gray mock-up, the green mock-up, and then a print file for the front of the shirt that is going to be only the resolution necessary and no more. And then I can generate those files, and it taps into the server and does a whole bunch of file math. And then I can download them to my computer to have them archived myself, or I can save them to my user library on the Printful. So that's pretty helpful. Other products that I've played around with, again, mugs, really easy to set up. And then, yeah, like things that, at some point I'd really like to do a tote. I have to admit, I hate the size limitations on these sorts of dresses and shirts. They're really limited. And like having very limited cuts is really frustrating. But the cut and sew sublimation is really nice. And that's another thing to keep an eye on. If you're getting sublimation printed products, if it doesn't say cut and sew, then it means that they take an already sewn product and they lay it as flat as they can. And you will have little areas where there are creases at the seams, especially in the underarms or other complicated seams where you don't, like where the print doesn't get applied. So if you're doing an all over black sublimated design and then suddenly there's these big white dagger marks in the underarms, that's because it doesn't say cut and sew.
It was weird. Those were like oddly popular. Not popular, but I saw a lot of those in like Walmart and Target style stores a couple of years ago, and I never understood why it was popular.
I definitely see stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And for sure, if you have a shirt where you want to have a design that's just bigger than you could reasonably screen print,
Yeah.
That's how you achieve it. But cut and sewn sublimated products are a lot nicer looking and a lot more successfully consistent than the all over print shirts that are not cut and sewn. So that's a hot tip. Yeah, and then what they have here is they have lists of their shipping methods and rates. So if I need to list something in my store and I'm saying, okay, I want to ship a t-shirt to Canada, it tells me like a t-shirt, $8 to ship to Canada. If I want to add tracking, then, the price changes.
Those aren't bad at all.
No, because this is shipping from the States to Canada, and these are US dollars. So just for the record, $8 US is $11 Canadian. So yeah,
something like that.
It definitely adjusts. Like I have to keep an eye on that. For mugs, like shipping to Canada, not as cheap. So like while mugs are not super expensive, they're still not they're not a super affordable item. I'm going to try out listing them. Mercifully, my risk was printing the one mug. So, printing 2 mugs and being like, this one design is good. So that works out. So then if you go back over here, Let me go to my stores. Wait, sorry, we gotta go back to the home page, Rachel. Go to products and we want to look at pricing. So say I want to print that rabbit shirt. And I know that was a Tiltex long sleeve. So this is the price, and this is the price for a fully printed product. And that price is not going to change no matter how many I print because it's print on demand. So when they're doing the direct-to-garment printing, the price doesn't change. Screen printing, there's a certain quantity if you're buying wholesale from them where the price will reduce, but
that's pretty awesome that they let you do that.
it's really helpful. They are not the cheapest for screen print, but if you are looking for something where you already know you like the shirts, you know how they print them and stuff, then obviously it's useful to go through them. Yeah. But yeah, if you're going to screen print and carry the stock around at home, then you might as well work with somebody local.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the direct to garment printing, $16.50 a shirt. Again, in Canadian, that is like $22. So these will probably be something that I list at $30 in my store, or $28, just to make sure that there's a profit margin where I make some money and I also have room to offer discounts. Like if my Patreon backers get a certain percentage discount to my store, or if I want to offer a giveaway or a special occasion discount, I don't want to cut into my cost to produce the shirt.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Like, I don't know, there's always like Cyber Monday sales and stuff like that. And I see some people going like 50% off their shop. And I'm like, what does your profit margin look like that you can offer 50% off of anything?
To be able to offer 50% off, you have to buy in crazy bulk. And maybe they do.
Maybe they do. And like, more power to them for being able to do that. It's just like, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Die.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. You can also read reviews of the shirt, which is honestly pretty nice. It helped me pick the next, when I was like, oh, they don't have American Apparel, but this one has really good reviews. So that sounds good to me. So that's the Printful. And then the other place I use is Art of Wear. And it also integrates into Big Cartel. This site, again, these people are a Canadian company, but they have the ability to ship out of Canada and out of the States. So shipping for people who are in the States, like the cost of shipping is still very low, which I really like. So this is, again, how it taps into my store. And you can see here, I've got an Art of Wear product synced. If I unsync that, I can show you how I sync it. So this is a pencil case. So I do that, and it takes me into a whole bunch of products that I've made, and it saves. And I go into the category I want, and I say, okay, I want this pencil case. So then it gets synced with the Stubbornness and Ideas pencil case.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it doesn't have as granular, and it only integrates with Shopify and Big Cartel. So it's not perfect. I'm pretty sure the Printful integrates with like 100 things, but you don't have to have it integrated to use it. So if you are looking to do drop shipping, you can just come on the site, go to your own store on the site, and choose to drop ship an item to anybody whose address you have. So even if it isn't synced to your store, you can still list it in your store and then go and place the orders yourself. So, but they print a whole bunch of different stuff. They also do wholesale. They have a nice list, obviously, for their pricing. So if we go down and we look at those pencil cases, I'm just going to show people the sausage here. Pencil cases, they have a suggested retail price of $12. They wholesale, they'll be able to get them to you for $6, which is 50%, which is generally what a wholesale price is. Drop ship isn't quite as low. It's $7.50, which I think is about 60%. They take 60% of retail price. But it's really nice to have these numbers, so I know whenever I place a drop shipping order, my cost is $7.50, and anything on top of that is profit. So again, making sure there's space between $12 and $7.50 gives me room to offer people discounts and not go broke myself.
Yeah.
which is really important. Let me see. But yeah, they have a lot of products. And definitely one of their main things is cut and sew printed clothing.
Yeah.
I don't like nobody wants bicrom on a pair of yoga capris, or if you do, tell me, because I could make that happen. But there's definitely people I know who make beautiful work that would work really well on some of these products and like touch them, reach, connect them to a fashion audience. I'm not that person. I use them for this stuff over here on the right.
Yeah.
So, pencil cases. I love them. They look really nice. I'm really happy with them. Uh, Obviously, then they have all the wall art. So they'll make canvas prints. They will arrive stretched and ready to hang. I've shown you guys the wood prints and the art prints. I picked up a poster print. It's high quality, but it's glossy. I don't super want glossy art. So that's not my jam, but yeah. And then they offer like a big pile of device cases, which I know some people do really well with. I haven't really tried myself.
Yeah, I haven't tried. There's so many different devices that like it just seems like a very difficult thing.
Yeah, it seems like you just put your money on the new iPhone, and then everybody who doesn't have a new iPhone is sort of like, why isn't there a device case for me?
And I know some of the places I've looked, they're so expensive.
Yeah, no, these are quite expensive. I think if we pop back over into pricing, we find the iPhone pricing. Yeah, the device cases retail at $35 and $40. The wholesale on like phone covers is pretty good, and the drop ship is about 50%. So I can definitely see the instinct to buy them, but
I wouldn't spend $35 on a phone.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can't empathize with that price point.
Yeah.
If I'm spending $35, it better be like an OtterBox that's going to save my phone from like I want 9 lives
Yeah.
for my phone from this case. But yeah, they offer. They also break down their shipping costs. And the other thing that they do, and I think the Printful does this too, but I haven't investigated it, is that you can put in custom labels with your store info.
Oh wow.
You can get them to print artist cards. So this is the label. Upload a design, they print it, they sew it into your clothing. You print these artist cards that go in with your orders. You can make stickers that go on your orders. And like these for sure like cost money. The stickers are new, so they're actually offering them for free. So I should really do that.
Yeah.
And then if you sell cases, you can make these little sleeves that will be like little phone sleeves, and like they look really nice.
Yeah.
I don't see myself selling any cases, but like what a lovely thing to add. And yeah, and then the Printful, I believe you can get some of the T-shirts. The tags are removable, and then you can get your store info and the T-shirt info screen printed or like direct to garment printed. Sorry, not screen printed. On the inside of the neck, so that it becomes branded. It's not just an American Apparel shirt with your art on it, but it becomes your shirt.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, so they definitely they exist to support all of that as well, and that's definitely a thing that I should do more of. And yeah, so the process of making a product here can be a little clunky. It's not as well designed, or maybe it's well designed, but it's not as well tested a site as the Printful. But if you go in to design your own, you have to upload a file. Let me see if I can grab anything from here. Let's just grab a tiny JPEG of a Bicrom comic, because that'll upload quickly. I'm going to have another cough drop. And you're going to notice, always keep an eye out for color space information on any of these sites.
Yeah, that is super important.
Yeah, you will get nasty surprises if you upload a CMYK image and they are not ready for it. Or vice versa, if they want CMYK and you give them RGB, like, woof, anything could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have your image, and I can keep uploading images and trying them out, but it pops in and it's like, okay, this is sort of full size. And then I can sort of like place it and see, this is a 3D model. So you can sort of like try and take a look at it. It's not perfect. I found that everything that I've placed slightly expanded when I got the product. So that was good to know. And then you can go in and edit the back, and you can like, you're like, we're just going to zoom right in on Conan for the back. There he is. So now you have like a Conan and then the message. And so you get to like test it out that way. And if you press these, they just bring you back to the orthographic view of either. If you like it, you can hit save. It'll warn you if you have failed to cover some area of it. If you ignore the warning and go ahead, then it generates it and it pops it in your artist's store. And so you'd be like, test design, demo. Save it into my store, and then I can show you guys in my store. So I'm going to say keep designing because I don't want to go through any of those other options. Then I can go to my account. And it takes me to the products I've designed, which is a pretty big folder of stuff. Some of which you may, savvy viewers, notice is not in my store yet, and that's because I'm waiting on prototypes or I'm waiting to see what the interest is. And some of it, yeah, like I'm waiting on a prototype of this, and I really hope it looks good on wood. But yeah, if we take this, then I can add it to, I can, like the art of wear will act like Society 6 for me as well, where it's happy to host my art of wear store. Okay. I don't have any interest in using that. So I don't have that turned, I don't think I have anything in my store. But they're really trying to help you out. They have this photo lab where you're like, I'm going to customize this preview. And they're like, look at all these beautiful backdrops you can put
it over the water.
Yeah, I think this is for a different audience than my audience.
Yeah.
I'm much happier and feel much more effective staging my own product photos at home. But they do offer that. And you can also just download a transparent PNG of the generated image of your product. And then when you say you want to order it, you can order a regular one. Though as a creator, I don't know why you ever would, because the price is really high. It's retail price. You can order a drop ship order, or you can order a wholesale order. I'm not going to click on any of these because it auto loads my address, and I don't want to share that with the public. But rest assured that for drop ship, the place you ship it to and the place you bill can be different. So if your customer has paid you for this product, then you pay Art of Wear to ship it to your customer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and then if we pop my Big Cartel store, it's just your standard Big Cartel store. And so these are all the products. And there's nothing special on this side except I have to make sure that I have my shipping up front. I have to make sure that those numbers are all accurate.
Yeah. So. And that's like a constant balance.
Just got to stay on it. Yeah. But yeah, here I'm going to stop sharing screens again. And go back to the thing and then check in on our comments. We're doing pretty good. Thank you guys for sticking with us, by the way. We've been talking for like 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Which means we probably should wrap this up.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk a little bit more about like time and pricing?
Oh man, it's a hard discussion, but yeah, I think it's like an important one to talk about.
Yeah, I think you make some incredibly labor-intensive products, and like we didn't even get into the tiny card decks and things that you've done.
Yeah.
But like, what is the thought process when you were trying to price this stuff?
So for the most part, like most things, the more you make, the lower you can go, because a lot of your labor comes up front all kind of at once. So if like I am babysitting, say, my printer or something like that, it behooves me to sit there for 15 more minutes if I can like get X number more out, instead of doing this every couple months or like every other month or something like that, like taking time out of my day. I'd rather do a huge amount of making all at once. Especially because like this isn't the only thing I do. I do like freelance work and stuff. And so I'd rather block out like a week or two of time where maybe my freelance load is lighter or something like that, where I don't have to worry about like a 24-hour turnaround on a project or something. And of course, always doing it, if you're trying to prep for a show, always do it like a month beforehand, because otherwise you will hate yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the cycle of staying up all hours the night before a convention to then sell at a convention is just a terrible, terrible curse.
yeah,
You
and
have to
like
break.
start doing more than one convention a year, it's like not worth your time. It's
Yeah.
just but yeah, so things like the cards, it's partially investing in what you're making things with,
Mm-hmm.
make your life easier. So I've always had my cards, I think, priced at $15, like all my card sets. I found that people aren't really willing to pay more than that, especially because you're competing with things that are mass produced. And while people do appreciate things that are made by hand or things that are made by an individual, even if I did mass produce said cards, like I can get them shipped out and printed, which I've looked into multiple times, but I still haven't like dove into. People seem to really like something that is screen printed, that they interact with on that level. So yeah, like I have since, like I really loved the look of rounded corners, and when I first started doing them, I literally just had this thing I got from Michael's that one.
Oh no.
Yeah, that did not last very long. I then like got this thing that was kind of like almost scissor like, where I can shove a couple in at a time, and eventually I wound up getting, I don't think I ever show anyone what this thing looks like, and it's hard to describe.
Pam's gonna go find a thing.
So wound up getting this thing,
Nice.
and it rounds like a half inch of stuff at a time, and it'll go through like a stack of paper. You have to, like almost anything that cuts paper or cuts anything really, you always have to make sure it's square. Like before you start cutting, make sure that it is
In the right spot?
It is such a heartbreaking moment when you realize you've gone through like 50 sheets of paper that have all not cut correctly.
Yep.
And you're like, cool, I'm just going to go die a little in the corner.
These will all be a half inch shorter.
Cool. So yeah, like I've invested in that, and that was like maybe $100, but I use it on everything. And stuff like that gives, for me, products a certain kind of appeal. Like I started rounding the corners on a lot of my zines as well, and it just gives them a certain look that I'm after. It won't work for everyone, but having clean edges and stuff goes so far in making things look way more professional. And I also have like a large guillotine cutter, as well as like one of those shrink ones that you see at like elementary schools and stuff.
Yeah.
So for me, doing my cards, like massive stacks of cards, because I try and do them anywhere from 50 decks to 100 decks at a time. And it's a lot of cuts. I have like 32 cards in one deck. I have 80 in another, which at this point, I think I'm just going to discontinue, or at least split them up into two separate decks, because like I cannot physically do it anymore. Yeah. It's not worth my time for $15. And while it's like kind of cute and satisfying to have this tiny pack of cards, I'm like, oh my God, I spent so much time making that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could have been doing other things, making money doing those things.
Yeah. As soon as you're not supporting your web store with a day job where you get a guaranteed, money per hour at day job, as soon as your money relies on your hours spent prepping your web store, your interest in like doing things that just feel really nice, but take days, starts to really plummet.
It's like you can have like one or two of those things, but like having everything be one of those things is not okay anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like pricing is always a mix of like how much time I've put into it, how much I think people will actually pay for it is like a huge part of it, which I think it actually comes down to most of it. And if I feel like if I make something that my amount of time and the amount of money I'm putting into it doesn't feel like it meets that that point at which people are willing to pay for it, I won't make it, because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Some things like shirts or like decks of cards or comics that people have an expectation of how much they're willing to pay.
Yeah, that is definitely, I think, a big part of it. Um, the like making something like a pencil case, like the people who print them have a recommended price. I also can go and look at other pencil cases and be like, what do people pay for these? And like, what's the difference between the one I have here, which is a pretty like water resistant cover and like a canvas interior, but it's a little zipper, and it's not metal. It's like a plastic zipper. So like, what's the price point difference between this and something with like maybe a brass zipper or that is like hand sewn or embroidered?
Yeah.
Um, so like finding that sweet spot. But people who look at this, most people who walk up have some idea of what they are already willing to pay, and like sussing that out means
Yeah.
going and looking at other products and seeing what they pay.
And it's kind of like, especially, so I do craft shows and comic shows, and price points at both of those shows is completely different.
Oh boy.
And then, like for say something like a pencil case, where like it's something that a person can get at Target for $5. Maybe they're willing to pay $10 if it's something from like a table at a show, but the quality on it, like the amount of money they would pay for, say, like something that was handmade and embroidered, yada yada yada, is not that much more, because
Yeah.
it's still at the end of the day a pencil case. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so it's hard to play that game, especially if like you want to make something that's handmade, embroidered, or screen printed, or whatever, hand painted. There's like a limitation there.
Yes, there really is. It's frustrating when you hit that wall where you're like, I want to make something beautiful. But there's also like something very freeing about realizing that like uh, when you're playing that, can I how much money can I make? Like there is sort of a like a sweet spot. When you find that sweet spot, you're like, okay, this much time will generate me this much money. More time is not going to change that amount of money.
Yeah.
Um, so I have to decide if I want to spend more time for personal reasons, but I don't like my rent won't be affected by
Exactly.
that time. So I don't owe myself that time.
I think that's a good way to put it. Is you can, if you feel like that is important to you, you can do it. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, you need to sit down and make sure that that is worth it.
Yeah. And then again, don't get I feel like I see a lot of people who I like who make brilliant work and who sell it, but they sell it, way cheaper than they could, or they sell it at a price where people would pay for it in a store, maybe with like a certain kind of packaging or such. But because they're doing it themselves, they suddenly have to put in that time on everything. And you do some really intense, lovely packaging.
Yeah.
For like your store and for conventions, your table is like full of lovely little presents that people come and get really excited about. And like, how do you negotiate that sort of desire to like present it really nicely and also get enough sleep?
Yeah, so there's some things where like I can sit down in a night and make like 100 of them while watching Netflix or something.
Yeah.
But it also, for the most part, makes it so people are willing to pay what I feel I should be getting for it, more willingly if the package looks nice. And if that takes me 30 extra seconds, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And so, especially with a lot of the things I have, they're just cards in the package. It's hard to justify to someone that that is $5 worth of work. You know what I mean? And so if I make it instead an experience, people are often more willing to pay for that experience of opening it up or something like that. And for me, that helps out a lot.
Which I think is really interesting and something that like I'm thinking about getting more into, sort of like, fancy little Riso things because I love it. But yeah, like it's like just having a sheet of paper on the table, like at a con, doesn't communicate what I'm trying to say with this, which is like, this is a really lovely, funny, epic thing that you're going to put on your wall is going to change your experience of, going in your bedroom or walking in the kitchen or wherever that, put it by your laundry, feel epic every day. Yeah, like having it as this flimsy piece of paper just floating around doesn't sell it on that level. So I think I need to copy Pam and do some serious packaging thoughts.
It's totally different from show to show too, which like web store is one thing, and then interacting with people is another. And from show to show, it's different. Like sometimes people are much more willing to buy prints because like it's a show where prints sell really well. Whereas like they're just like, why do I need this tchotchke? I don't want it.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, I was prepping
a billion things.
Yeah. And like there's an instinct to have a ton of products, and there's an instinct to have like the 3 things that do well.
Yeah.
And like I definitely see people rotating products as well, being like, you have this, this is here for, convention season, and when they're sold out, they're gone.
Yeah.
And sort of putting those time limits on things to sort of keep themselves from having a store with 100 products in it.
Because it's tempting to do that. It's so tempting to do that.
Yeah.
Especially like to keep them available at all times. But yeah, it's another time situation.
Yeah.
We're now like constantly chasing down, oh, I only have 5 of those left. I need to get them reprinted. And then like 3 days you're like, okay, I only have 5 of those left, and now I have to get those reprinted. And
yeah. And you have to store all of these products instead of just like your core products.
Yeah.
So what would you say your core products are if you had to like narrow it down to 5 things that you want to be able to sell people? What are the ones that make you the like happiest to make and sell?
For a long time, I thought they were my zines and stuff, but they haven't been selling as well at shows. And I'm feeling, well, I don't know. Zine shows, they definitely sell better. Larger comic shows, they don't. But I think that's just the larger comic shows aren't really about comics.
Yeah, that seems fair.
It's a thing. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's a thing. That's what kind of people are attracted to a lot of time. You know what I mean? But a lot of my stuff that sells really well is my witchy stuff. Things that people can interact with over time. It's not just like a one-time use item.
Mm-hmm.
People seem to be much more into that kind of thing. So yeah, I definitely like, so for Emerald City, my best-selling thing was like my urban divination deck. So things that have some sense of humor often go really well, especially if there is like some sort of, so a lot of the stuff I have is like witchy shit and like occult stuff. And there's an amount of like forbiddenness to it.
Yeah.
Other to it. And so
there's some taboo at work.
Yeah. And so having a sense of humor to it also, it's suddenly like, oh, this is okay. Or like, oh, I bet you even if someone's not into this kind of stuff, they think this is funny type of deal. Which doesn't go over as well with other things. Like I thought I have a Ouija board, and I was like, oh, people love Ouija board stuff right now. Like I had an enamel pin that was a planchette that sold out like really quick. People love this. People do not want to buy Ouija boards.
No?
No. I sold maybe 20 or 30 of them in the past like year and a half that I've been making.
Oh my God, they're so beautiful.
And they're a pain in the ass to look around. They're big.
Yeah.
And so it's not worth it to me to bring to faraway shows a lot of the time. Because half the time someone will come up, pick it up, which is like a big thing. Like you want people to touch stuff and pick it up because oftentimes they won't put it back down.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've like also recognized that. So like you want people to pick stuff up, they'll pick it up, and whoever they're with is like, not in my house. I'm like, oh, I don't know. That's too far for me. And I'm like, what?
So that's the line? Ouija board is they'll buy a ghost. Like they've got a product that is buy a ghost, but they will not buy a Ouija board.
Not expect it. But you know what, like it sold really well at craft shows.
Witchy ladies.
Mostly to old ladies.
You know what? Old ladies are the generation when their parents were scared of Ouija boards, and they were like, I have 5.
Exactly. So yeah, it's just really interesting, I think. So yeah, like my cards and witch stuff sell the best. I think it's partially because it is something that you can interact with that isn't just reading something, but also that I think the witchy stuff is also in trend right now, and I'm banking on it real hard. So yeah.
Like my intent when I did the Bicrom Kickstarter was to like make a book Bicrom in the hands of all the people who had like supported it peripherally over the years. Zine collections that I never bothered to keep in print, and then like make a book at a quantity where like there was a profit margin high enough that I could still turn some profit.
Yeah.
Something that I could bring to a convention, and if I sold 10 of them, then that was a big boost. Part of my airfare or my hotel for the week or whatever. So on that level, it's working great.
You're cutting out just a touch there. I don't know if it's me or you.
Improved at all? Internet. The stats and see if it's on mine. Oh no, I'm good. I think it's you.
Oh no.
How are you doing? Is it okay?
That's a little bit better now. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Oh well. The book.
Okay. But yeah, you are much
People
better.
like it.
That's good.
But the book weighs a pound. Every book weighs a pound.
Oh God.
I'm lugging a 20-pound box. If I want to bring 40 books, I'm lugging a 40-pound box. And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are more apt to pick up like a printed book like that at a lot of shows.
Immensely. This book rides on people knowing who Conan is more than I think anything else. So it's really hard to sort of distinguish its appeal. Zines like this to having the first time I printed Orm the Dead Man's Sword, I printed it as part of our double issue, which is perfect bound. Also a double cover. Are a lot easier to sell than a large black and white stapled zine of the same size. They have that like professional printing aura where it's like a book, but the base cost is like, while the base cost is higher, it's not like outrageous. So like we sell this one for 10 pages. And color cover, really matte finish on it. Delightful. Be nice. These I'm pretty sure are digitally printed. We printed them with Marquee Printing in Quebec, Canada. So if you're looking for on-continent printing at a high volume, they also did Bicrom. But like the bookness is a part of the appeal, but also finding that price point is a struggle. I sold Bicrom for $25, like 100. I'm guessing, I wish I could remember, 140 some odd pages and color in a lot of places. It's a printed book. I've had cons where I've sold like 3. So yeah. Wish I could be psychic. I will say it moves very well online, which has been really nice. My store has had like a steady stream of people picking up the book, which means I get to throw in a postcard and I get to sign it, and you know, mercifully at £1, it's just under the line in Canada for letter mail.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So that makes it a slightly more affordable thing to ship. And Canada, and then, like I said, I found this makes it a lot easier to ship.
I always find it interesting, like how things sell very differently online versus at shows. Like I don't know. I just have nearly never sell a comic on my website, but like go through comics pretty easily at shows.
Man, it's just such a crapshoot. Just such a crapshoot. Do you think some of it is like how you're selling it?
I don't know. I have changed the way that I've taken photos of them over the years, and I think it's just maybe that the audience that I've gained online versus at shows might be different.
Yep.
Which is a huge thing. But yeah, I don't know.
That seems very possible.
I don't think I have a lot of people like trying to find me for comics online, for sure. I'm very much
definitely like
an illustrator and or product maker online.
Yeah, like when I think of it, like first, like finding your store, I was definitely sort of impressed that you also had these comics as well as like I think I was expecting art zines, and then there's comics. I can read comics by you, and that was your Twitter brand, Pam.
I definitely got into comics like later on. Like I went to school for illustration, and I hadn't started didn't really do comics until like a couple years ago. But I definitely like started doing comic shows and really like amped up my shop doing that kind of stuff. And so it's weird that it's like eclipsed that aspect in a weird way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we lost Rachel. I can't hear her or anything. Maybe I'll just end it for you. Anyway, yeah, pricing's hard. Having your own shop is hard. Nobody tells you how to do it, and even if they did, they'd be wrong. Because everyone's shop's different. I think a good lesson is to ask questions of other people who do it, because they all do it completely differently, but you might learn something from their process or avoid really bad mistakes. Don't self-print an 80-card tarot deck. Just don't. You might think it's easy, but it's not. It's going to take you like a long goddamn time to assemble those things and cut them all out. And yeah. Apparently her router crashed. And it's coming back slowly. But yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Routers suck. This is not the first time I've done a live stream where a router died. But yeah. I'm sure if anyone has any questions for me or Rachel, you can get in contact with either of us. My Twitter handle is @Pam Wishbow, all one word. And Rachel's is Portable City, @Portable City. She's based in Toronto. I'm based in Seattle. I can't vouch for her, but I'm a shut-in who doesn't talk to anyone. So I'm happy to chat online. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for hanging out and asking questions and being super patient. I hope it helped someone or was interesting in some way. But thanks. I'm going to end it now, though. I'm ending it. Again, thanks for coming out. Bye.